So I decided to do my project on homelessness within the Greensboro greater area. Um, the organization I chose to reach out to question and learn more about was Greensboro Urban Ministry, also known as GUM. I called and I looked online as well, and I had some follow up questions for them that I asked, and I'll go over them. The first question I asked was, of course, the history of Greensboro Urban Ministry. It started in 1967, and it was organized by local churches within the community. Uh, the main church that it started out in was Grace United Methodist Church off of Westgate City. And in 1976 is when the current building that it's in now off of North Eugene was erected. Um, and in the early 80s, Pathways and Project Independence came into play. Pathways is the living community for family. So it's not just one single person, it's a family. Um, Project Independence is people with resources to help people get off of welfare and live independently. Um, Back to Pathways, the eligibility guidelines, excuse me, are you have to be a resident of the greater Greensboro area, you must have an income, and you must have children as well as full custody of that child or children. Um, Another question I asked was pertaining to the Weaver House. Um, so the Weaver House is the actual shelter where a single person can stay for one night. Um, and with that, during the wintertime, the Weaver House has this thing called the Weaver Extension, where churches around the community open their doors during the harsh winter nights and let the homeless come and stay. And that runs, I want to say it may start in November, but I know for sure it ends in April. When I called to ask more about it, one of my questions were, is that something that would be changed to a year-round schedule? I spoke to a lady named Chelsea, and she said that's not something they have looked into, but, you know, it will be brought up. Um, but she did say that the Greensboro Sportsplex has opened its doors to the homeless due to the recent COVID-19 coronavirus. So that helps. Um, and another question I asked pertained to the Potter's House. The Potter's House is um, basically the soup kitchen, as everybody knows it, for the homeless to get something to eat, a hot meal. Um, and the question I asked is the Potter's House still open on normal hours due to COVID-19? And is there a limit on how many people they're letting in one time? I spoke to a lady within the Potter's House. I forgot to ask her name. I told her I was a student at North Carolina A&T doing a brief research about the organization and had a few questions. And she said that the hours are still the same from 10:30 to 12:30. But instead of actually doing meals to where the people grab a plate and sit down, they're actually making bag lunches. Because all restaurants, all places where you sit down and eat, or even cosmetic places, you can't have anybody sitting down. And it also will limits groups. But those were a few questions I asked, and that ties up my action project research. Thank you.